The rural girl was forced to marry a poor boy, didn't know he was a millionaire CEO that fell in love with her. The sun dipped low over the fields, painting the sky in strokes of gold and amber. In the heart of the village, life moved as it always had, slow, rooted in custom, untouched by the rush of distant cities. But inside a modest clay brick home near the edge of the fields, time felt like it had come to a halt. Before we go further, please ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this one. 19-year-old Lila sat beneath a neem tree, her dupatta spread beneath her like a second skin, her fingers tracing the yellowed pages of a worn English novel. Her eyes were sharp, alert, filled with unspoken thoughts. Her mind wandered often, beyond the fields, past the village borders, to streets she had never walked and dreams she was never supposed to have. She had always been different. While other girls embroidered or fetched water, Lila devoured books. While the elders talked of dowries and husbands, she imagined lecture halls and literature. But dreams, in her world, were luxuries. That evening, her father stood at the door, his voice heavy. "Come inside, Lila. We need to talk." Her feet hesitated, sensing the weight in his tone, the kind of weight that comes before storms. Inside, her mother sat with folded hands, her eyes refusing to meet Lila's. A local priest was present, and beside him, the head of another family, the Sarmas. Next to him stood Raj, a boy Lila barely knew. Quiet, always seen alone. Poor, an orphan. He stared at the floor, unmoving. Lila's heart dropped. Her father cleared his throat. "The elders have spoken. The stars are aligned. The marriage will be in 2 weeks." Silence stretched like a rope between them, ready to snap. "No," Lila said, her voice quiet but firm. "I don't even know him." Her mother looked away. The priest murmured something about destiny and duty. Her father's expression hardened. "He is a good boy. Humble. He'll take care of you. And we don't have time for stubbornness." "But I had plans," she whispered. "I wanted to study." There are no scholarships coming," her father snapped. "No jobs waiting. Books don't feed families." Lila looked to Raj, hoping for protest, a flicker of resistance. But he stood motionless, lips pressed, unreadable. The decision had been made. Without her. The days that followed blurred into rituals. Neighbors whispered. Aunties arrived with wedding saris. Her mother handed her bangles, saying, "You'll understand after marriage." Lila said nothing. Her books lay untouched, dust gathering on words that once transported her away. Every glance she gave Raj was met with silence. He was always polite, always distant. He neither smiled nor scowled. Just watched the world with quiet eyes. What was he hiding? The wedding day arrived wrapped in incense and tension. Drums played, bells chimed, marigold garlands swayed in the wind. Lila was draped in deep red, her face hidden under a veil, her heart pounding like thunder against her ribs. The mandip was crowded. She felt alone. Raj sat beside her, expression calm, unmoved by the colors, the chaos, the commitment. As the priest chanted, as the fire crackled between them, Lila's thoughts screamed, "This isn't my life. This isn't my choice." Still, the pharaohs were taken. The knots tied. The sin door marked her fate. Applause echoed. The crowd cheered. Lila felt nothing. That night, in the quiet of their shared room, Raj did not speak. He simply laid a thin mattress on the floor, turned away from her, and slept. No questions, no demands, no pretense. And that silence frightened her more than anything else. Days passed. Lila performed her duties, cooking, cleaning, greeting guests, but her soul wandered elsewhere. Raj, meanwhile, vanished early every morning, returning late at night. He never said where he went, never asked her anything, never pried. Always calm, always distant. There was no anger in him, no cruelty, only a quiet that stretched between them like an invisible wall. Lila started watching him. He never wore the same shirt 2 days in a row. His phone, a sleek one she hadn't seen anyone else in the village own, buzzed constantly, though he always stepped outside to answer. He never carried tools, never spoke of work. Yet there was always money, modest, but consistent. He wasn't like the other village boys. One afternoon, she walked into the room while he was out. His bag lay open. A corner of a black laptop peeked out. Her heart raced. Raj had never mentioned owning a laptop. No one in the village did. She sat down, fingers trembling, and flipped it open. Password protected. Of course. But then, just as she was about to close it, It unlocked. No password at all. Her eyes scanned the screen, open emails, spreadsheets, video call apps. She clicked one by accident and froze. An ongoing conversation. In fluent English. Business terms she barely understood. A man's voice said, "Raj, the valuation crossed 2 million yesterday. Investors are thrilled. Shall we move the Bangalore meeting?" Her breath caught. Raj speaks English? Raj runs meetings? Valuation? Investors? Bangalore? She stared at the name on the video chat. Raj Malhotra, CEO, Trinexa Technologies. The world shifted beneath her feet. That night, Raj returned to find Lila sitting cross-legged on the bed, laptop open in front of her, her eyes unreadable. He froze. "You're not poor," she said. He didn't answer. "You're not who they said you were." He nodded slowly. "No, I'm not." "Then why this charade? Why this marriage?" Raj sat down across from her, his posture calm. "Because I was tired," he said. "Tired of fake people, of gold diggers in the city, of being wanted for my money, never for me. I came here to disappear for a while. Your father's proposal came just then. They said you were different, smart, brave. I took a risk." "A risk?" Her voice cracked. "You used me." "No," he said, gently. "I never lied. I never touched you. I never forced you to be anything you didn't want. I just hoped you might see me for who I am." Silence fell between them. Lila didn't know what to say. He stood, walked to the door. "If you want to leave, I won't stop you. I'll take the blame. I just wanted something real." The door closed behind him. Lila sat alone, the laptop screen still glowing. Somewhere, something inside her stirred. Not anger, not fear. Confusion, curiosity, and a strange pull toward the man who had, somehow, hidden an entire world beneath his silence. The wedding was over, but there was no celebration in Lila's heart. She stepped into her new home, a modest, dimly lit room at the back of her in-laws' house, with the heaviness of someone who had walked willingly into a cage she couldn't see until the door locked behind her. They were strangers, she and Raj. Now married, now bound. He said little, almost nothing at all. And when he did speak, it was in brief, clipped sentences. Always polite, never warm. The first night, Raj offered her the bed, quietly laying a folded mat on the floor for himself. No questions, no expectations, no explanations. Lila didn't thank him. She didn't trust silence, especially not his. Each morning, he left before sunrise, a soft rustle of clothes and the creak of the old wooden door the only signs of his departure. When asked, he'd say he was looking for work. He never specified what kind, never shared what he earned, and never asked her what she did all day. He returned before sunset, just in time for dinner, ate silently, washed his own plate, then sat outside under the stars, staring at nothing. It was as if he existed only in the in-between, never fully present, never entirely absent. Lila hated it. She hated how his calm made her feel childish, how his distance wasn't cold but composed. It unsettled her, like she was the only one drowning while he stood perfectly dry on shore. She refused to speak unless necessary. She served him food without meeting his eyes. She folded his clothes but slammed the drawers shut. She thought if she could keep punishing him with her silence, maybe he would finally break and reveal what game he was playing. But Raj never flinched. It wasn't long before Lila started noticing things. His shirts, always freshly pressed. His pants, creased, spotless, not like those of someone wandering through fields or doing hard labor. His hands free of calluses. His nails trimmed clean. Not the hands of a poor man struggling for daily wages. Then there was the phone. Sleek. Expensive. Nothing like the outdated models other villagers carried. He always kept it on silent. Slipped it into his pocket the moment she entered the room. Once, she caught a glimpse of the screen. A video call interface with a name she didn't recognize, a foreign name. He shut it before she could see more. Odd, she thought. Too many things about him didn't fit the picture she'd been given. One afternoon, as she walked into the kitchen, she heard a soft voice behind the closed door of their room. Male. Confident. Speaking English. Her steps froze. "Yes, I'll sign by Friday," Raj's voice said, clear, professional. "Why are the funds?" "And tell Arjun to prepare the NDA." The call ended with a click. Lila stood in place, heart thudding. She knew what an NDA was. She'd read enough books to understand business terms when she heard them. But why would her husband? Her poor, unemployed, simple, husband, be talking about funds and non-disclosure agreements? She crept back before he emerged. He glanced at her, then turned away as if nothing had happened. She didn't ask. Not yet. Suspicion began replacing resentment. She started watching his habits. Where did he go at 5 a.m. every day? Why did he never come home dirty or exhausted like other men? One day, while sweeping, she found a receipt tucked inside his pocket. A coffee shop. In the city. With prices that could feed a family for a week. Another day, she found a key, small, gold-plated, attached to a leather tag that read, RM. Her mind raced. Was he hiding a mistress? A secret life? Was she part of some bigger scheme? Was she even legally married to him? The silence between them grew louder. At night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun lazily. He slept soundly on the floor, his face calm, unreadable. She wanted to shake him, scream at him, ask him who he really was. But something held her back. Maybe it was the fear of hearing the answer. Or maybe it was the fear that he might not be the villain she wanted him to be. Her mother visited one day, bringing sweets and concern. "You look thinner," she said, brushing Lila's hair. "Are you being treated well?" Lila wanted to say yes, wanted to lie. But all she could say was, "I don't understand him." Her mother smiled sadly. "Few men are meant to be understood, Beta. Just be patient." But patience wasn't the issue. It was the mystery that clawed at her, the sense that Raj was never who he claimed to be, and that he never really claimed anything to begin with. One evening, while Raj was outside, she entered their room, determined to confront the truth. The laptop sat inside his cupboard, hidden behind a stack of books. She pulled it out, hard hammering. It powered on. No password. Her hands trembled. Emails flooded the screen. Contracts. Financial reports. A logo. Trinexa Technologies, repeated across every document. She clicked a folder titled Q4 Investor Briefing. Video files. Presentations. A photo of Raj at a podium, suited, confident, speaking to a room full of foreign executives. CEO. It hit her like a wave. Raj, her husband, was a CEO. Not a struggling villager. Not an unemployed orphan. A multi-millionaire in hiding. She stepped back, gasping. The door creaked. He was there. Their eyes met. No more secrets now. "I didn't mean to lie," he said softly, walking in. "But I didn't want to be found either." Lila couldn't speak. "I built Trinexa from scratch," he continued. "After my parents died, I worked nonstop for years. I thought success would bring peace. But the more I earned, the more people tried to use me. Friends, partners, women, everyone wanted something. No one wanted me. So you ran," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I escaped," he corrected. "Came here to breathe. To live like someone normal." "And the marriage?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "They said you were different. I didn't expect you to love me. I didn't even expect you to stay. I just hoped maybe someone would see me as more than what I own." Lila's throat tightened. He sat down. Not pleading, not defensive, just honest. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "You can leave. I'll support you if you want to study. I won't stop you." And just like that, the decision was hers. No threats. No demands. Just an open door. That night, she stood alone under the same neem tree where she once dreamed of leaving this village. Only now, she wasn't sure what she wanted to leave behind. Raj had never touched her, never raised his voice, never denied her space. But he had hidden a truth so vast, it shattered every wall she'd built. She didn't know if she loved him, but she knew now he was not her prison. He might just be her puzzle. And something about him made her want to stay long enough to solve it. Tal Discovery description. One evening, Raj forgets to lock his small drawer. Lila, cleaning the room, stumbles upon a sleek laptop inside. Curiosity overwhelms her. She powers it on, and what she finds shocks her. Business emails, bank transfers, Zoom meetings with foreign investors. Her poor husband is discussing millions, acquisitions, and corporate strategy. She sits frozen. Was this a scam? Was she being used? She waits for Raj to return. Her hands, the sun had begun its slow descent behind the hills when Lila decided to clean the room. Not out of duty, but out of habit, something to keep her hands busy while her mind spiraled endlessly with questions about her husband. Raj hadn't returned yet. He rarely did before dusk. And as always, he hadn't said where he was going. She moved around the small space with a rag in hand, dusting shelves, folding clothes, trying to make order in a life that felt anything but. When she reached the wooden cupboard tucked in the corner, she noticed something strange. The small drawer Raj always kept locked was slightly ajar. She paused. It wasn't much, just a tiny gap. But in a house where everything about him was measured and precise, it was like finding a crack in a stone wall. She hesitated, heart beating louder than her thoughts. Curiosity tugged at her like a whispered dare. Slowly, she opened the drawer. Inside, beneath a couple of old books, lay a sleek silver laptop. Nothing like the second-hand electronics most villagers used. It gleamed under the dim light, almost out of place in their modest room. Lila looked toward the door. Still no sign of Raj. She pulled the laptop out with trembling fingers, placed it on the bed, and opened it. To her surprise, it powered on immediately. No password. The desktop loaded with a clean background, a city skyline at night, and only a few folders. She clicked one. Emails. Hundreds of them. From addresses that ended with .companyuk, .com, .sg. Subject lines she barely understood. Finalization of acquisition terms. Board approval, merger strategy. Investor call, Q3 revenue forecast. She blinked, unsure if what she was reading was real. Then clicked another folder. Video thumbnails appeared. Recordings of Zoom meetings. In one of them, Raj sat at a conference table, wearing a navy blue suit. His posture upright, eyes sharp. He spoke fluent English with confidence, discussing market growth and corporate vision. Foreign investors nodded in approval. Lila's mouth went dry. She opened a document titled Wire Transfer Confirmation. The amount, 220 million Indian rupees. Her fingers tightened on the trackpad. Her mind couldn't keep up. Was it fraud? Was he impersonating someone? Or was this real? Her poor, quiet husband wasn't poor, and certainly not ordinary. The room felt colder suddenly, as though the truth had sucked the warmth from the air. She closed the laptop, hands shaking, pulse quickening. Was she part of a game? A pawn in some scheme? She remembered the wedding, the hush-hush urgency, the way no one knew much about Raj except that he was alone and quiet. She thought they were marrying her off to a simple man. Now, nothing about this felt simple. Had her parents known? Was she some insurance policy? Was this why Raj had remained so distant, never opening up, never arguing, never touching her? Because he was hiding a double life? She stood up, unsure what to do. Her legs wobbled beneath her. Should she run? Tell someone? Wait? She placed the laptop back in the drawer, exactly as she'd found it, trying to erase any trace of her discovery. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, hands in her lap, staring at the wall. Seconds ticked by like hours. Every creak outside made her flinch. Her mind reeled with questions. Who was this man? Why did he choose this life? Why her? The old wall clock struck 7. Still no Raj. She stared at the door, waiting. By the time she heard footsteps outside, it was fully dark. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. The doorknob turned. Creak. The wooden door swung open. Raj stepped in, his silhouette framed by the last traces of twilight behind him. He froze when he saw her sitting upright on the bed, stiff, eyes unreadable. He noticed the drawer, still slightly open. Then their eyes met. Long silent. She didn't blink. And for the first time, he looked uncertain. He closed the door gently behind him, then walked in with measured steps. I forgot to lock the drawer, he said, voice low. She said nothing. I guess you know now. Still, she didn't speak. Raj sighed and sat down, not beside her, but on the old wooden chair across the room. The distance between them felt like a canyon. I never meant to lie, he began. At least not like this. Not for this long. Lila tilted her head slightly, expression sharp. So you were just going to play poor until when? His lips pressed together. I didn't plan it. I came here to get away. From millions, she asked, her voice cutting. From everything, he replied. I steady. From people who only saw me as money. Investors. Gold diggers. Even friends I trusted. Lila shook her head, almost laughing bitterly. And marrying a village girl was your solution? I didn't plan that either, he said, softer this time. Your father saved my life once. Years ago. From a road accident. I was just repaying a debt. Then, they insisted we marry. You could have said no. I did. Twice. Then why agree the third time? He looked at her carefully, then dropped his gaze. Because you were the only person who didn't try to impress me. Who didn't care who I was. She blinked. Anger, confusion, hurt, all crashing into each other. So this was what? She snapped. An experiment? A vacation from your real life? No, he said firmly. It was the first time in years I felt invisible and safe. She stared at him, suddenly unsure of what to believe. There was no arrogance in his voice, no bravado, just fatigue, loneliness. Silence fell again. This time, it wasn't cold. It was heavy. Then Lila stood, walked to the door, and paused. I don't know who you are, she said without turning back. But I know who I am. And I won't be part of a lie. He didn't stop her. He just nodded. She stepped out into the night, stars blinking above like distant witnesses. That night, Lila returned to her parents' house. She didn't speak a word during dinner. She lay awake until dawn, heart sore with confusion. She wasn't angry because he was rich. She was angry because he had chosen to keep her poor in the truth. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a seed of doubt sprouted. He didn't seem like a manipulator. He had never treated her badly. He had protected her space, given her silence, never once tried to control her. So, why had he hidden himself? What was he afraid of? She stared at the cracks in the ceiling above and wondered, had she walked away from a liar, or from someone more broken than she realized? A week passed. Lila hadn't spoken to Raj since that night. She stayed at her parents' home, but peace was elusive. Her mother tried to comfort her, and her father remained quiet, knowing better than to interfere. The village buzzed with its usual gossip and daily chaos, but inside Lila's mind, one question replayed endlessly. Was it all a lie, or something deeper she didn't understand yet? Then one morning, Raj came. Not dressed like a villager. Not hiding. He arrived in a charcoal gray SUV no one had seen before, wearing a simple linen shirt, but even that couldn't mask his poise. The neighbors watched from their porches, murmuring, whispering. Children paused mid-play. A few men removed their turbans in greeting. No one recognized this version of him. Except Lila. She was waiting. They met in the backyard, beneath the neem tree where she'd spent countless hours reading as a girl. The wind stirred the branches gently, casting shifting patterns on their faces. Lila stood, arms folded. Raj, a few feet away, didn't attempt to move closer. You wanted honesty, he said quietly. You deserve that. Lila didn't respond. So he began. My real name is Raj Malhotra. I run a tech company in Bangalore. Or, I used to. We built it from nothing, 3 of us in a one-room flat. We worked day and night. 7 years. Then came investors, offices, private jets. And the vultures. His voice didn't waver, but there was something hollow behind it. Friends turned into rivals. They leaked confidential data, manipulated board decisions. I was nearly ousted from the company I built. I fought back. Won. But I lost something. Lila's brows furrowed. She shifted her stance, slightly less guarded now. I lost trust, Raj continued. Every conversation felt rehearsed. Every relationship, transactional. I had everything. But nothing felt real anymore. He took a breath, eyes fixed on the ground. I needed silence. Space. I remembered your father. How he helped me after my accident years ago, when no one else knew who I was. I came here out of gratitude, but also desperation. He finally looked at her. And then, there was you. Lila stiffened. Raj didn't step forward. His tone remained calm. I didn't know you. But the way you argued with the priest during a village meeting, the way you read under that tree like the world around you didn't exist. You weren't trying to impress anyone. Not even me. I wasn't, she said coldly. I know, he nodded. That's what made you different. There was a long pause. You agreed to marry me, she said sharply, without telling me the truth. I didn't agree at first, he replied. I said no twice. But your family insisted. And something about it felt right. You made me think you were poor. I didn't say I was. You didn't say you weren't, she snapped. Raj exhaled. I wasn't playing a game. I was hiding. Healing. Lila turned away for a moment, staring at the distance where the fields met the sky. Her voice dropped, quieter, rawer. You watch me suffer. Question my future. Feel trapped. You could have told me. I was scared, Raj admitted. That if I told you too soon, you'd change. That everything would become about the money. She turned sharply. You assumed I was like everyone else? No, he said, holding her gaze. I hoped you weren't. And you proved me right. Her throat tightened. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Why didn't you fight for me when I left? she asked suddenly. Because I didn't want to control you, Raj answered. You needed space. I respected that. You've been forced into too much already. The honesty in his voice unsettled her. It was too calm, too sincere. No anger, no blame, just truth. Lila stepped closer now, the first time since he arrived. And now? What do you expect from me? Nothing, Raj said. Except the truth. From you. She studied him. His face was tired, but not broken. The mask had dropped, and what remained was something she hadn't seen before, vulnerability. You're still wearing your villager's shoes, she said, noticing the dusty soles. I still like walking here, he replied. A silence stretched between them, filled with wind, rustling leaves, distant birdsong. Then Lila asked the question that had haunted her most. Was I just an escape for you? Raj's reply came after a moment. No, you were a mirror. You showed me who I used to be, who I wanted to be again. That broke something inside her. Tears welled up before she could stop them. She turned away quickly, wiping them with the edge of her sleeve. She hated how much those words affected her, how much she wanted to believe them, because deep down she had seen his gentleness, his respect, his restraint, and it hurt that the man she tried so hard to hate was the one who'd never once tried to own her. I don't know what this is, she said finally. I don't know if it's real. I can wait, Raj said softly, for as long as you need. Lila met his eyes, and for a moment, the walls between them cracked, not fully, but enough for light to filter through. He turned to leave. Halfway to the SUV, he stopped, looked back. There's a letter in the drawer, he said. Not a secret one this time. Just something I wrote, in case I never got to say all this. Then he got in and drove away. That night, Lila sat alone in the room they once shared. She opened the drawer. This time, there was no hidden laptop, only a folded letter with her name written neatly on the front. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. The ink was slightly smudged, as if he'd rewritten it many times. Lila, if you're reading this, you probably hate me. I don't blame you. But I want you to know, everything I did, every silence, every distance, it wasn't because I didn't care. It was because I did. I didn't want to poison our beginning with a lie. But I didn't know how to offer the truth without changing everything. I never needed someone to admire my success. I needed someone who could see me when the lights were off. And you always looked through me like I was just a man, not a brand. That mattered. If this ends here, I'll respect that. But if you're willing, maybe we can start again. As equals. As truthfully as possible. Lila folded the letter and held it to her chest. She still didn't have all the answers. But for the first time, she wanted to ask the right questions. The first time they sat across from each other after everything, the silence wasn't hostile. It was heavy with questions, unspoken, but felt. Lila held the cup of chai Raj had made, staring at the steam. The kitchen was modest but clean, and the light through the small window painted soft shadows on the wall. Raj didn't speak first. He never did. He simply sat, waiting, respecting her pace. And that, strangely, is what made her speak. You never asked me what I wanted. Not once. Raj nodded. I know, and I should have. She met his eyes. Then ask now. A pause. Then, what do you want, Lila? The question struck her, not because it was asked, but because no one had ever asked it so sincerely before. That evening, Raj handed her an envelope. Inside was a signed annulment agreement. No pressure, he said. If you want to go, you're free to. You never chose this. Lila looked at the papers, then at him. There was no guilt in his eyes. No begging. Just honesty. That night, she didn't sleep. She thought about his silence in the early days. His quiet presence. The way he always left food for her even when she ignored him. The way he stood beside her at the wedding not as a conqueror, but a reluctant participant. And how, even now, with everything out in the open, he still wasn't trying to keep her. The next morning, the envelope was still on the table. Untouched. Lila placed her palm over it and looked at Raj. You won't need this. His brows lifted slightly, but he said nothing, just a soft smile, the kind that didn't gloat. Their transformation didn't happen with fireworks. It was slower, organic. It began with one meal shared, not forced, just convenient. Then came the quiet conversations, short, simple exchanges over tea or laundry. Raj was a listener. Lila, once cold and closed off, found herself opening up, not because she had to, but because he listened like her words mattered. One rainy afternoon, she found him working on his laptop by the window. Instead of walking away, she asked, "What are you building?" He looked up, surprised. "A logistics tool. AI-driven forecasting for small businesses." She frowned playfully. "English, please." He laughed. It was the first time she heard him laugh, genuinely. So he explained it simply, slowly. To his surprise, she didn't walk away. She asked questions. Good ones. She was sharp, quick-witted, intuitive. By the end of the hour, Raj wasn't teaching. They were exchanging ideas. That night, while they washed dishes together, Lila spoke without looking at him. "I wanted to be a writer once." Raj paused. "Why didn't you?" "Because girls like me don't get to dream." He said nothing, but she saw his jaw tighten. The next morning, a courier arrived. Inside was a brand new laptop, books on literature, and a small note. "You still can." Lila didn't cry. But she did smile. Days blurred into weeks. The house, once cold, felt warm. Lila's voice filled the halls, reading passages from novels, laughing at her own writing. Raj worked beside her sometimes, letting her sketch characters while he crunched numbers. They argued too, not harshly, but passionately, about poetry, about business, about whether the chai needed more cardamom. The arguments never ended in silence. They ended in understanding. One evening, she came to him with a notebook. "I've been working on something." He raised a brow. "A story?" "No," she said, handing it to him. "A pitch." He skimmed through pages. An idea for a publishing platform for regional writers, complete with structure, monetization, and outreach strategies. "Where did you learn this?" he asked, impressed. "YouTube." "And you?" He looked at her, really looked. "You're brilliant," he said quietly. She blushed, hiding it with a sarcastic, "Took you long enough." Their chemistry wasn't loud. It was quiet, steady, undeniable. One morning, they passed each other in the hallway. He moved to one side, she to the same. They laughed at the awkward dance. Their hands brushed, accidentally, but neither moved away. It was in these moments that something subtle began blooming. Not obligation, not habit, but something like affection. One night, during a power cut, they sat on the porch under the stars. Crickets chirped. The air was thick with monsoon scent. "I used to look at these same stars," Lila said, "and wonder if anyone out there lived the life I wanted." Raj leaned back, staring up with her. "And now?" She turned to him. "Now I wonder if maybe I was meant to want something different." He didn't reply, but his fingers brushed hers on the bench. And this time, she didn't pull away. Still, not everything was perfect. The village whispered. Why were they still living like commoners? Why did the poor boy now own a car? Why was Lila studying instead of cooking? But they didn't care. Their world had become too rich in meaning to be shaken by noise. One evening, her parents visited. Raj served them tea. Lila noticed her father watching Raj, measuring him not by wealth, but by gentleness. By the way he held the tray with two hands, bowed slightly in respect, and let Lila do the talking. After they left, her mother hugged her tightly. "Not every man shows love with words," she whispered. "Sometimes, it's in the silence." Lila nodded, heart full. The defining moment came weeks later. They were at a nearby town, visiting a bookstore Raj secretly arranged to stock with her short stories printed anonymously. Lila's eyes sparkled as she saw her name, just her first name, on a small local author shelf. "You did this?" she whispered. He shrugged. "You wrote them." Her eyes filled. "No one's ever believed in me like this." He stepped closer. "You believed in me first." It was quiet. She kissed him then, not out of obligation, not because they were married, but because they finally saw each other, not as strangers, but as partners. The city didn't sleep. It pulsed, roared, sparkled. Towers scraped the clouds, and traffic hummed endlessly below. For Lila, it was another world, one she used to only see in magazines. Now, she stood at the window of a sleek penthouse apartment, watching it all unfold beneath her feet. Raj had returned to his empire. And this time, she was walking beside him. The boardroom once again echoed with his voice, calm, assertive, magnetic. But what surprised everyone wasn't just Raj's comeback. It was the woman beside him at events, quiet but radiant, greeting guests in flawless English, her presence graceful, yet unassuming. Lila had transformed, but not into someone new. Into someone she was always meant to be. Raj called her his silent strength. But not everyone welcomed her glow. Among the many faces clapping at his return, one pair of eyes didn't smile. Mira, once Raj's trusted associate, now bitter, watching from a distance as her place beside him was filled by a girl from a village. She'd built her dreams around him, and in her eyes, Lila had stolen it all. The whispers began subtly. She's only with him for his money. She's playing the long game. Raj's judgment is clouded. The gossip trickled through corporate corridors, planted by Mira with surgical precision. And one morning, Lila overheard two board members at an event. She probably drugged him with some countryside charm. The words didn't sting. They burned. That night, Lila stood by the window, silent. Raj walked in, loosening his tie, and paused. "You're quiet. Do you ever wonder," she asked without turning, "if I'm holding you back?" His eyes sharpened. "Did someone say something to you?" She turned. "It doesn't matter. I just want to know if I'm helping or hurting." Raj stepped forward, took her hand. "You made me human again." Tears glistened in her eyes. "Then don't let them take that away from you." As Raj's company surged back into the spotlight, offers began pouring in. Acquisition deals. Lucrative mergers. Names from foreign shores flew in with suitcases full of money and conditions buried under praise. "We want your brand, Raj. We'll triple your valuation. You'll be on the cover of Forbes." Mira played her cards expertly. "This is your chance," she whispered. "Cash out. Build something new." But Lila, watching from a distance, noticed the shift in Raj's eyes. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was calculating, worried, conflicted. Late one evening, he returned home exhausted. Lila sat cross-legged on the floor, papers scattered around. "What's all this?" he asked. She looked up. "I studied your company's impact reports." He smiled faintly. "You're unbelievable." "No," she said seriously, "you are. But you're forgetting why you started." He sat beside her, shoulders heavy. "They're offering too much. It's hard to say no." She touched his hand. "You built this with values. Don't sell your soul for numbers." He looked into her eyes, clear, unwavering. "I'm scared I'll lose everything." She whispered, "Then let it be your choice, not theirs." But the vultures circled closer. Suddenly, old tax allegations resurfaced. Articles questioning Raj's leadership began appearing online, anonymous sources, all hinting at internal instability. Then, the worst blow. A leak. Confidential data from Raj's company went public. Stocks dipped. Investors panicked. Mira, calm as ever, offered a solution. Merge with them. Let go of the burden. But Lila stood firm. "This isn't about business. It's a war for your identity." Raj looked at the two women. One offered relief. The other, resolve. A week later, Raj announced a press conference. The room was packed. Lila watched from the wings, heart pounding. Raj stepped up, eyes scanning the room. And then, he spoke. This company began in a one-room apartment. With one laptop. One belief. He paused. That people matter more than numbers. Murmurs spread. "I've been offered billions. But I'm not selling." Flashes erupted. "I don't want an empire I don't believe in. And I don't need to prove my worth to anyone." He looked directly at the cameras. "And for those who think my wife is my weakness," he smiled. "She's my compass. And without her, I'd still be lost." Silence. Then applause. Rising. Echoing. Roaring. Lila's eyes welled up. Not because he defended her, but because he remembered himself. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Raj and Lila stood on the rooftop. The city stretched endlessly. He pulled her close. "You were right." Again. She rested her head on his chest. "You knew all along. You just needed reminding." They stood there in silence. But this silence was different. It was the sound of trust, of partnership, of two hearts beating in sync against a world that tried to tear them apart. And yet, deep in her gut, Lila felt it. This wasn't over. The night was too still. The stars too quiet. Something was coming. She just didn't know what. Yet, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers and egos. It was the International Innovation Summit, where titans of industry rubbed shoulders, where alliances formed and reputations burned in silence. Raj stood tall among them, confident, focused. Beside him, Lila, graceful in a navy blue sari, her poise unmatched. The once shy village girl now moved through the elite like she belonged, because she did. The lights dimmed. The host welcomed the crowd. Flashes popped. Journalists whispered. Investors nodded. But then, the screen flickered. A pause. A voice, smooth, smug, echoed through the room. I'd like to share something about one of tonight's visionaries. A face appeared. Vikram Shah, Raj's former rival, smiling like a predator. Behind him, the screen blazed to life, showing grainy images of a dusty village, a small house with mud walls, a teen girl drawing water from a well. Lila. Then her wedding photo, framed like evidence. The captions cut through the crowd like a blade. From village well to penthouse, the Cinderella who married her way into millions. Laughter, gasps, and then silence. The camera turned to Raj. He didn't flinch. But Lila. Her eyes were wide, her fist clenched. She stood slowly. The room watched. One woman. Alone. She walked toward the stage, not rushed, not shaken. The mic awaited. She picked it up, her voice steady. My name is Lila Malhotra. I was born in a village most of you can't pronounce. I wore hand-me-downs, studied under a neem tree, and yes, I drew water from a well. The audience leaned in. But poverty doesn't equal shame. And marrying Raj wasn't a strategy, it was survival. What followed was choice. She breathed. I didn't trap anyone. I stood by a man when the world doubted him. I studied while they mocked. I built with him, side by side. The silence was thick. I speak 3 languages. I'm studying finance. And no, I don't wear Gucci every day. But I wear dignity. A slow clap began. Then another. And then the room erupted. Applause shook the walls. But Lila wasn't done. She looked toward Raj, who walked up and took her hand. She didn't chase money, he said into the mic. She taught me how to value more than profit. He turned to the audience. I didn't give her a life. She gave me one worth living. No one laughed now. Even Vikram's smugness faltered. He slinked away, his final play burning to ash. That night, the city below sparkled like a blanket of stars. Raj and Lila sat on the rooftop of their apartment. 2 chairs, 1 candle, quiet music in the background. Lila wore a simple cotton sari, her hair loosely tied. Raj was in jeans and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up. No business suits. No pretense. Just them. He poured her a glass of juice, toasting quietly. To queens. She smiled, clinking her glass with his. To warriors. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the city hum. Then Lila asked, softly, did you ever doubt me? He didn't look away. Never. But I feared the world would try to. She nodded. And it did. But you stood taller than all of them, he said. A tear rolled down her cheek, one of relief, not pain. I thought I'd be forgotten in that village, she whispered. Just another girl buried under expectations. He took her hand, kissed it. Now they remember your voice more than mine. She chuckled softly. I didn't plan any of this. He grinned. The best stories aren't planned. They're lived. Below, the lights flickered like stars trying to keep up with her shine. The same girl who once cried in a bridal red, forced into marriage by fear, now stood in the heart of a city, not just as a wife, but as a woman who rewrote her fate. Lila didn't just marry a CEO. She became the queen of her own story. And this was only the beginning. If you enjoyed this story, ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing, heartfelt stories like this. Also, let us know where you are watching from, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What did you think about Lila's incredible transformation from a reluctant village bride to a powerful woman who stood beside Raj Malhotra, not in his shadow but as his equal? Were you surprised by Raj's hidden identity? What are your thoughts on Vikram's betrayal and Lila's bold speech at the conference? We'd love to hear from you. Your voice matters just as much as Lila's did.